Closed in a room, my imagination becomes the universe, and the rest of the world is missing out. Welcome to AMI Audiobook Review, the weekly podcast where we talk all things audiobooks, starting with the quote of the week. This one is by Chris Jamie, and it's in the book Diatima, Battery, and Electric Personality. And I just really found this quote endearing, talking about, for me, where this personally came from, is picking up books that are fantasy, that are out of this world, that are not my comfort zone, if I'm being completely honest with you. But it digs into something. It digs into you as a reader, allowing yourself, giving the permission and taking the opportunity to explore something that you may not have explored before, and potentially that you have explored before but didn't necessarily love. Okay, well, put that feeling aside and try it again. And I think that's the kind of magic that books connect us with, right? Where we may not be sure, we may not be certain, we don't even know if we're actually going to love this, but we'll give it a chance because books may take us there. So that's the quote of the week. That's what it's offering us today. Let's move ahead to the CELA homepage. The Center for Equitable Library Access gives us a catalog of audiobooks, ebooks, and books in accessible formats. Right at the homepage, we have 3 featured titles, and the ones that are up there right now are Queen Charlotte by Julia Quinn. This is a historical romance. We also have Page Boy by Elliot Page. This is a memoir and an LGBTQ plus biography. We also have Snow Road Station by Elizabeth Hay. This is a family story. So check out these 3 books if you like the sound of their titles. Right on the homepage at the Center for Equitable Library Access, celalibrary.ca. Moving on to book talk with Nisreen. How's it going, Niz?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, talking books.
I am so excited to introduce this topic. I feel like you're going to be very excited because we have news for Harry Potter fans. And I believe, Ramya, you're a bit of a geek, Harry Potter geek.
A Potterhead, yes. Thank you.
A Potterhead, that's perfect. So Audible and Pottermore have joined forces to bring you the first audiobook in the series, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, is now available in the Audible Plus catalog. Oh. According to the Good e-reader, previously customers had the option to purchase the audiobook separately or use 1 credit with an Audible Premium Plus membership. So the Leaky Cauldron just reported that Audible members can now stream this iconic title at no additional cost until August 4th, 2023. So this special offer is accessible through both Audible Premium Plus membership and Audible Plus standalone membership, both of which come with a free 30-day trial. So the inclusion of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone in Audible Plus is part of the 25th anniversary celebration of its original release in the US and Canada. So Ramya, as the biggest Harry Potter fan that I know
in the world. No, okay, yeah.
Are you getting on that?
Oh, of course. I mean, I reread Harry Potter series over and over again, but this is kind of cool. I think on the level of, you know how franchises just, most of the time, most creators, they will try to continue expanding and expanding and expanding. Like, how much further can we take this franchise? Can we write another book? Can we do a play? Can we make this into a movie? Oh, now a TV show. All of the above has been done with Harry Potter, right? We have literally, like, I can't even think of anything more they can do because there's just so much that they're doing already. Maybe a full cast audio drama if that doesn't exist already. But now what they're doing is saying, okay, let's just make this more accessible for people. Like, for nostalgic reasons, but also for people who may not have picked up Harry Potter for whatever reason. I don't want to go down that road. They can do it with the free, right? With the free access to the audiobook. I'm not sure if this means, though, after August they're going to pull it back. Like, it's no longer going to be part of the Audible Plus.
According to this article, that it's just going to be available until August 4th. So I'm not sure what's happening after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the audiobook for Sorcerer's Stone has become one of the most popular titles on Audible,
Of course.
with over 1 billion hours of Harry Potter stories being enjoyed globally since their availability on Audible 7 years ago. So I feel like regardless, even if it's the 25th anniversary celebration or not, it never dies down.
No.
I mean, Potterheads are always going to be Potterheads regardless.
Yeah.
Just like you. So for me, I was always a Potterhead when it came to the movies. I never read the books.
Oh my gosh.
When it came to
You
the
have Audible now,
so
don't you?
now I have Audible and I'm going to enjoy every last bit of it because everybody tells me that the books are better than the movies.
Of
so
course,
I
hands
have
down.
to get on that. So
On this side of the
right when
fence.
we're done,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna give you a Potterhead review after
Please.
this.
Please do. I mean, we love talking Harry Potter on here. Nobody gets sick and tired of us talking Harry Potter. So
Hopefully.
thanks,
Hopefully.
Nasreen. Always enjoy talking Harry Potter, so appreciate that. But anyway, we're gonna continue on because we still have Sela Talk. It's the first of the month, so we're gonna chat with our friends from the Center for Equitable Library Access. You're listening to AMI Audiobook Review, the weekly podcast where we chat all things audiobooks. And because it's the first of the month, the first Saturday of the month, and wow, the second half of the year. Okay, yep, just had a live time realization. We're going to be checking in with our friends from the Center for Equitable Library Access. Karen McKay and Theresa Power are joining us now from Sela. We visit Sela every week when we give you our featured titles. And Theresa is the Content and Access Librarian. Karen is the Communications Manager. And we're keeping it going with summer reads. We talked to Amir Khan last month, technically last week, about summer reads, his specific summer reads. And we got into some of this kind of conceptual conversation, the philosophy of summer reads. But it's nice that we're going to continue because why not? It's summer all summer long. So, first of all, I think that we should kind of go around the table and talk about why we think of our summer reads as summer reads. And I already went last time. So, Karen, you're up.
I'm up. Okay, so I have sort of two thoughts about this. One is I want something that's easy to pick up and put down, that's engaging, but that I don't have to put a lot of brain power into. So that's one category for summer reads for me. And the other is one where I actually do need to put in more brain power. The books that I've been saving so I can spend some time kind of reflecting on them. Those are my holiday reads. Those are the things that I want, to sit on the dock and read and not be interrupted. So I have a couple of both of those books in our conversation today, but that's kind of my philosophy of summer reads, either super light and easy or something I've been holding on to so I can pay more attention to it.
Okay. Theresa, follow up about what you consider as summer reads.
Yeah, so for me, summer reads are what I call quotation marks, no obligation reads. So, because
I
from
love
my
that.
work, like I've talked about it quite a bit, probably ad nauseum on this podcast, is, I have a lot of reading that I do for work and for several communities that I'm part of. So for me, no obligation reads are reads that have absolutely nothing to do with any of that. So it's, for me, pure pleasure reading. And it's often not necessarily things that are super recent because it takes me quite a while to get to these books. So it could be something from several months ago that I've kind of been squirreling away to read as a summer read.
These are from your to-read list, I'm assuming. So do you just go back into that and think, I'm going to pick this out?
Yeah, absolutely. As I, do my daily work for Sela, I see lots of books or see books that I'm like, wow, I really want to make sure that I put those on my list to read when I get a chance to.
Okay. Nasreen, do you want to hop on this thread about what you would consider to be your kind of summer read? Or, because I think I'm curious about whether people honestly do this. Sometimes I think that, this is definitely a summer read, but it's not necessarily something that I would pick up during my summer,
Really?
Yeah.
I think, and I've mentioned this before, I feel like romance is my go-to type of genre, and especially in the summer. During the winter, I've noticed that I go for more of memoirs and biographies. In the summertime, I want more relaxing, more calm unthinkable books.
Yeah, non-obligation. I keep going back to that, Theresa, your term, because no obligation books, because that feels very, very right. Like, maybe I just don't feel like going in deep. But Karen, you mentioned going in deep, though. So do you have an example of a read or something that you're anticipating reading during the summer that falls under this, like, deeper thoughts category?
Yeah, so there's a book called A Life Worth Living, and it's based on a course that you can take at Yale, and the professor's actually written a book about it. I have been thinking about this one and learning about this one because Kelly Corrigan, who's one of my favorite podcasters, she's doing a book club around this book. So the professor is the director of the Yale Center for Faith and Culture, where he teaches this class called Life Worth Living. And so the book and the class sort of walk you through the major philosophies of all the world's different religions and how they can help us live a more remarkable life, a more important life, a more fulfilling life. And so this is one of those ones that I want to spend, time on the dock. And I think it's the kind of thing where it would be great to start some conversations around the dinner table. And, it's one of those ones I really want to kind of think about. And so, I've got a couple of weeks off this summer and I'm going to be sitting on a dock for a chunk of it. This is the book that I'm going to read. Yeah, it's so like one of the things that caught me was that it says much more likely that you might, despite your best intentions, live a trivial life, let it slip by, focused on other things. And so, I don't know if you guys know the quote by Brene Brown, but she says, in middle life, the world sort of takes you by the shoulder and says, I'm not messing around, get your act together.
Right.
And that's a bad paraphrase, but that's a very bad paraphrase. But that's kind of the idea. And so this, I really like the sort of the themes behind this book. So that's one that's sitting, waiting to go to the cottage.
Okay, I like it. I like the concept that you're trying to point out with this example, right? Like where it's not necessarily difficult reads in terms of, dark or historical or news. It's something where you're still checking in with yourself, almost self-development, but it's more like questions you can be pondering throughout the summer. And that's got a romance to it, I think, over the summer. Theresa, can you connect with this?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think for me, that quote that you gave, Karen,
so well.
actually, it actually really resonated with me, even like where I am at my point in life. Not to get too deep about things, but that sounds like a really good read for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so give us an example of something that you are wanting to pick up during the summer.
I just cannot wait to read this book. It's called The Librarianist by Patrick DeWitt. And I know that I say like my summer reads are no obligation reads that have nothing to do with work, but this is actually about a retired librarian. So it's still within like my wheelhouse, I suppose. And this librarian, his name is Bog Comet. And he lives kind of what seems like a very unassuming life, now retired in his house, surrounded by his books. And circumstances lead him to volunteer at a senior's home. And there we learn actually so much about this character, his past loves that he lost, and his ties to World War II, and just these I think incredible stories that you wouldn't necessarily think are from this person. I absolutely love Patrick DeWitt. He's a Canadian author. He's not necessarily a prolific writer, so this is why I kind of cherish and squirrel away this particular book, because it's been a few years since he wrote his last one. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
I can totally relate to that anticipation of and I'm thinking more of TV shows when I'm saying this, but that anticipation of the next thing that you've been waiting on from an author, or a sequel to a series, or even kind of as a rewind, right? Revisiting a book that you're like, I've been patiently waiting to reread this book. Do you guys do this? I love certain books over the summer, and it might be as simple as because the first time I read it, it was over the summer. So I'm so nostalgic of hitting that sweet spot again with that same book. And I'm like, summer rolls around and I'm like, oh my God. I know it's not going to be the same as when I first read it, but I'm craving that spot, like in that headspace or that actual physical space. It might have been a cottage, and I just enjoyed the moment so much. So I'm rewinding back to that, and I will most of the time. If it's not winter, fall, or spring, in the summer, I will pick up these books that I had wanted to read, just been wanting to revisit that moment.
It's funny you say that because I am currently reading a series that I have read, I want to say at least half a dozen times.
Right. What's the series?
If
Are you going to tell us?
More. Yeah, absolutely. So it's the Aurora Tea Garden series by an author named Charlene Harris. She's American. And okay, you're probably going to laugh because the main character is a librarian.
We see a trend when we said summer read trends.
But like I never thought of myself as a gentle mystery kind of a gal. Like I was pretty pretty snobby about it. And then I realized like this is one of the series by the same author that I come to the most. And she is a librarian. It's set in the South. So it's very, very Southern, and each book is about like a murder that's happened that she happens to find herself in the middle of, and she solves. And what I like about Charlene Harris, well, I think that there's some parts of her books that are quite dated. So I think this series goes back to at least the 90s, I think. A lot of her books, many of her series write strong female characters who are quite independent, and although they may find love, are equally okay without having a partner. And I really appreciate that in her books.
Mm-hmm. It's I'm glad that we're kind of all able to tack our own personal experiences onto this, like why we would choose certain books or why certain books are what we consider summer reads. I think that this conversation is endless, honestly, because we're already touching on so many different things that Amir and I had not discussed last week. So let's keep going. Any not any other, because of course there is other, but other books, Karen, that you're either looking forward to or that you consider summer reads?
So I'm picking up one called Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis, and this was published last year. And it's one of those books that I walked past in the bookstore. I went, don't like the cover, so I'm not even going to pay attention to it. And then I was having dinner with a friend of mine not too long ago, and she has been reading it, and she was just raving about it. So it's gone on my list. So it's a debut novel. It's about a scientist in California, and it's in the 1960s, and she's a chemist. And she's facing all of the issues that you would expect she might face in the patriarchy. And she finds herself a single mom, and she ends up on a television show. She's a cooking show. She's a host, and it's called Supper at 6. But instead of just, saying you add some salt and you blah, 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 this kind of thing, she says things like combine 1 tablespoon acetic acid with a pinch of sodium chloride.
Oh.
So she's teaching chemistry to housewives, basically watching these TV shows. And so on one level, it's kind of light and funny, but on another level, it's all about not accepting the status quo. It's all about, our own personal power, how we can take a situation and turn it around. So my friend was just raving about it. So it's on my list. Apparently it's hilarious, like laugh out loud funny, but also it's got a deeper meaning. So that's one of the ones that's going to go on my doc reading list.
Isn't that ideal, by the way? Like where you can indulge yourself in something that feels light, but also you can find the deeper threads.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that they make for great conversation books. So
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And, Theresa, are you likely to pick up books that people recommend, or are you really, wanting to stick to that to-read list that keeps growing and growing?
So I think that there's maybe one person in my life who might make good recommendations where I'd be like, oh yeah, that sounds like something that I would really like to read, and I'll pick it up. But I mean, given that I do collection development for a living, I already see quite a bit, and see quite a bit like what's
You're like, I already know what's
kind
good.
of like what's coming out, so I can. And also my list is very small too. Like, you know, those obligatory readings take up so much of my time. So my to read just for Theresa special is can be quite small. Yeah.
Maybe it's just more about comfort too, right? Like during a certain time, maybe of the year, maybe stages of life, whatever, I feel, I will just personally speak, I feel that I'm not really feeling like taking a recommendation. And then other times I'm craving, like absolutely, like anybody and everybody, give me a recommendation. The first person to give me a recommendation, done. I don't care what it is. I will read it. It's actually happening right now. But it's interesting that we kind of go through that because, of course, we all have to read lists, Karen.
Yes, we all do.
We can write a novel with the list that we've developed.
There's a word for that. I think it's called ballycumber, and it's like seriously, it's like the stack of books beside your bed that's about to fall over, all the ones that you need to read. Yeah. So I have a long ballycumber. I don't know if that's how you use that word. Anyway, so yeah, one of the other ones that
what is the digital version of that?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Your Audible just keeps scrolling and scrolling.
You are now out of book credits. So another one that's on my list is this one. I think it's just light. It's called Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune, and it's by a Canadian author. And it's the #1 best-selling book this week, I think, in Canada. So that's sort of where it came from for me. But also, it's about Muskoka, and I kind of feel like I want a beachy, lakey Muskoka kind of read for the summer. So this is my pick up and put down book, and it's about this woman who she's run back home to her parents, her mother's lakeside resort, and she's sort of her life is in disarray. Her ex-boyfriend is the manager there. She doesn't even know where to begin. The whole thing's a mess. And she's spending far too much time thinking about this man named Will Baxter that she spent 24 hours with in her early 20s. And he just keeps playing on her mind. So while she's at the resort trying to figure things out, he shows up and he's offering to help her with her challenges at the resort. And so it's one of those sort of long lost love, intrigue, what's his secret, why is he back kind of things. It's like a rom-com, I think. And so, yeah, but it's all set in Muskoka, which is where I'm going to be for my vacation. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to having that kind of, light read, I think. Oh,
that's awesome. So you've really planned it out.
I have.
You're like, I know I'm going to be here and this is what I'll feel like reading. I have much more of a spontaneous feel during the summer, I think. Oftentimes I reflect on what I had just read and think, oh, that was perfect for this time. And very much not in practice of anticipating that this is the kind of book I'll read. Like I just blurted out, anybody and everybody, give me a recommendation. But also like sometimes the book, for example, last year, and I mentioned this in last episode, so sorry for the repeat, but last year I read Where the Crawdads Sing around this time, and right before that I had read To Kill a Mockingbird, and I thought those two books just went so perfectly one after another and for the time, like end of June, early July. And I could not have guessed that. Like there's no way I would have went on Google and said, what's a book that I could read at the end of June? What's an end of June vibe? But after reading, I was thinking, oh, that couldn't have been more perfect. Theresa, can you reflect on something like that when we have like a minute left?
I think that's like the most beautiful pairing that I've heard of. I wonder if the southern setting kind of evokes the hot weather of the summertime, and which makes it such a perfect read. For me, yeah, there is a bit of spontaneity, I guess, but also, like I said, because of what I do for a living, there's also like a lot of squirreling away and putting things aside. I know one that is definitely going to be marketed as a summer read, and I think has come out at this particular time for a particular reason, is The Whispers by Ashley Audrain. She wrote this amazing book called The Push, which is like like haunts me to this day. Like I have talked ad nauseum about
so
this book,
good.
like people who are parents and like
Yes.
people who don't have kids, and like
Yeah, we've definitely
just
talked about this.
her talking about mothering and being a mother, and it's the same thing in this book. You know, it's these people living on a street and they're close, but they're not really close. Lots of things happening behind closed doors. People aren't perfect. Something happens to a kid and stuff starts to unravel. And I'm not through it by any means. I've just kind of started it, but like the same kinds of questions about like, you know, wanting to be a mother and what it means to be a mother and connecting to your kid. We could dedicate a whole podcast just to talking about The Push, which would make me so happy.
100%. Oh my God, amazing. Okay, I love spending time with you girls. Thank you so much. We'll check in with you in August.
Thank you.
Karen McKay and Theresa Power from the Center for Equitable Library Access joining us to kick off the month of AMI Audiobook Review. That's it for now. We'll catch you next week. I'm Ramia Amuddin with Nisreen Abdelmajid, our technical producer. And until then, happy audiobook listening.